Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast on this Friday edition. I appreciate you tuning in. Welcome to your daily dose of objective truth in a world of lies. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are found. That's Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. If you rate and review it, guys, I would really appreciate it. That'll help us move up on the charts. Also, please be sure to follow me on social media, wherever I am on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. I'd really like to build up my Truth Social and Getter platform. So if you would find me there, I would very much so appreciate it. And let me quickly talk to you about My Pillow. Guys, we have a friend by the name of Mike Lindell, all of you patriots out there at My Pillow. Mike is fighting for election integrity. He's providing American jobs, American manufacturing, and providing a good night's sleep as well. One of the latest things that are on special, that are on sale, are the Percale sheets. You would regularly buy a set of a queen set, for example, for $89.98. But if you use my promo code Carl, they'll sell them to you for $39.98. There's a 10-year warranty. There's a 60-day money back guarantee. These things are comfortable as all get out, just like the My Pillows, just like the My Pillow slippers, all of which I have. And they are very, very comfortable. All you have to do is call 800-858-0263, 800-858-0263. Enter that promo code Carl, or tell them about, or use the promo code Carl. Or you can go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square. Again, use that promo code Carl, and any applicable discount for any product, if you search mypillow.com, will apply using the promo code Carl. So do some early Christmas shopping. This might be a very good time to do it. Guys, here's what I want to talk to you about, because things are getting absolutely crazy. I'm scared. I'm just going to be honest with you. I went from I read a column this morning on AM Greatness. This is from Eric Lindrum. Eric, if I'm not mistaken, obviously he writes for AM Greatness, but I believe he's part of Sebastian Gorka's staff as well. And he has written a sobering column that, for the GOP that I think embodies what I've been sensing for the last couple of weeks. Even with the primaries here in Florida, to be honest with you, even though we had some great runs in the primaries, some conservatives that have gone to the school board, which is an amazing thing, and I'll talk about that have gone on to win seats on the school board, even in blue areas. It's a good thing, but there's just something where I'm just like, and I'm sure you guys, if I'm sensing it, I'd imagine you guys are sensing it too, where I'm just like, I don't feel that red wave passion like I was feeling. I think Eric Lindrum does a good job of explaining why. Let me just give you a taste of this article. It's entitled, "Yes, Republicans are blowing the midterms." And guys, I listen, if we're going to win this country back, we cannot take our foot off the gas. And we have to know messaging. We have to know the right things to talk about. So let's start this here. If you thought primary election season was finished, he says, teaching valuable lessons ahead of the November elections, then you thought wrong. With the recent contest in Florida and New York, the GOP just received a dire warning about its midterm prospects, with all the subtlety of a New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. All right, so we were all optimistic that there would be a red wave occurring in November. And I got to tell you, as far as the House is concerned, I'm still pretty confident that can and most likely will occur. I'm not as confident about the Senate, and I'm not even as confident that the red wave in the House will be as large as we want. And I'll explain why. The writer here goes on to say, after all, it is the historic midterm pattern. The historic midterm pattern is this: any incumbent president normally loses Congress, or at least loses control of one arm of Congress during the midterm election. That's just the way that it has. Only 4 times in American history has that not happened. 2 of the times, I believe, were with President George W. Bush, because we were in a wartime scenario. But other than that, it's just extremely rare. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But he goes on to say, The president's party always loses the seats in the midterm, which I just explained. Both the Senate and the House seemed ripe for the taking. So this is what all of us were expecting, right? We even felt like the Senate could be taken. We had some good candidates. We believe with Blake Masters in Arizona, Ron Johnson is in a fight for his life. Marco Rubio right here in Florida. I don't think it's a cakewalk necessarily. Val Demings has had all types of money thrown at her in state and out of state. That race, I think it's going to be not as easy as people are predicting it to be. I would even say with Governor Ron DeSantis, I looked at a poll earlier that had Charlie Crist. I mean, he has heavy favorability amongst Democrats. So I don't think we can take any of these races lightly. Now, I do believe that it's likely that DeSantis will win. I was thinking he'd win in a landslide. Now I'm hoping he will win by a good margin, a large margin. But I got to tell you, I think the fight is on, and we can't take this for granted. If the midterms were held in May or June at the height of the inflation, at the height of all the highest gas prices, Republicans would be okay. The problem is Republicans have a problem with messaging. The Democrats are good at messaging. They lie to us like crazy. They change definitions of words, right? That's what they do. That is their modus operandi. And we Republicans, we stick to the same note: economy, 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 because we're like, hey, it's the economy, stupid. And oftentimes that is the case. In May and June, that was the case. Myra Flores was able to flip the 34th district in Texas for the first time in, I believe, 100 years or so, because it was the economy, stupid. And border security. I mean, she lives in a border town. So that was loud in that was loud and clear. But that isn't the case anymore. 2 months later, the GOP red wave isn't as obvious. And I'm going to give you an example. And you have to ask yourself this. This is the problem that I have with the GOP, and you should have with messaging. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. As Republicans, as conservatives, we tend to be logical, rational, non-emotional people. But politics is a game of both. You have to have an end game. Democrats do. They want to turn this nation into a socialist nation. They have an end game, but they use emotional arguments to get people all charged up where they stop thinking, right? And they vote for Democrats, even to their demise, to the destruction of communities like the Black community. But this is what they do. But if Republicans are using emotion for good, that is a good thing. If we tap into people's anger, their frustration, their felt need, that's a good thing. Republicans, at least the leadership, doesn't seem to know how to do that, or they don't want to do that. So what was true in May and June is no longer true. We're looking at inflation. And even though you and I know that we're in a recession, albeit a minor recession, the left has managed to say we're not in a recession, even though it's been defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline in regards to our GDP. The left just says we're not in a recession. And now people are saying, well, if we were in a recession, or if a recession comes, you'll hear words like this on television. You're like, wait a minute, we're in one. But this is what the left does. They change the definition of words. They win on the messaging. And then you see the prices of gasoline going down. And you're like, oh, my God. OK, maybe Biden is doing something effective that we don't know about. You know, a lot of people aren't taking the time to think, no, basically what's happening is we're choking people. they're choking the oil market. Fewer people around the globe are using fuels, just right here in the United States as well. We've gotten to a point where we're like, it's too expensive to drive. So we're only going to drive when it's necessary. And all of this is making the price of fuel go down, not to mention the strategic petroleum reserve that is being drained in order to help gas prices go down as well. But let me give you an example that Eric talks about in AM Greatness, because I think this is a very, very good column and worth all of us reading and paying attention to in the conservative movement. He talked about how the red wave isn't as obvious, and he talked about the New York District 19. You guys had heard about this, I'm sure. New York's Congressional District 19. Every single poll, he says, including those commissioned by Democratic groups, showed Republican Mark Molinaro as the overwhelming favorite to win. The district is an Republican +3. right? That Joe Biden, so plus 3 points, that Joe Biden won by just 2 points over Donald Trump in 2020. Yet he says, come election day, a seat that was supposed to be another pickup for Republicans was won by Democrat Pat Ryan in a 4-point victory over Molinaro. So the generic ballot polling is starting to trend back towards Democrats. And a lot of Republicans may not understand this. We look at Joe Biden, we're like, this guy is an absolute disaster. He's destroying the economy, jobs, so on, etc. And we should be talking about those things. But we also have to talk about the issues, and probably more importantly so, the issues that get people riled up, the issues that unite Republicans and Democrats. And those are social issues. I've talked about this. I've mentioned this example plenty of times before, where I went to a Republican meeting with a bunch of leaders, if you will, in the movement locally here in Orlando. And a guy was like, hey, don't talk about abortion. Don't talk about these social issues. Let's just get away from that. Economy. And I'm sitting there and I said, man, that's just wrong. I mean, certainly you have to know your audience. But as a Black conservative, I was like, man, when I talk to Blacks about abortion, or minorities about abortion and Margaret Sanger and how they wanted to kill us and destroy us, they're like, what? People simply don't know. Now, I'm not saying abortion is the issue to talk about, but there are some issues that we should be talking about, which I will get to shortly. But I do want to read this part of his column talking about the generic ballot polling. He says, Politico's latest generic ballot shows Democrats with a 4-point lead, with several other polls reflecting a similar reversal. The aggregate of all major generic ballots currently gives the GOP a mere 0.2% lead with less than 3 months left to go. So the GOP messaging stinks. It stinks. Right now, it is not the economy. And Republicans are left flailing around because I think they thought, and even I believe, that perhaps we would be able to ride this topic all the way up until November, the topic of inflation, jobs, so on, etc., high gas prices. But most people that aren't politically informed, they need the evidence right in their face right then and there. So if they see gas prices coming down, then they're like, maybe things aren't as bad as Republicans are saying. Maybe things are going to get better. Maybe Joe Biden does have things under control, because they don't know what's going on in the world market as far as oil is concerned. They're probably not informed that Joe Biden is draining the hell out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. They don't know any of this stuff. This is stuff that you and I keep up with. It's not stuff that the average everyday American keeps up with. He or she is just too busy living their lives. So the GOP seem to be a one-trick pony. It's the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy. And because we tend to be a one-trick pony, we don't win elections unless the economy is bad. It's sad. So there's voter frustration with Joe Biden, and Democrats was at an all-time high thanks to inflation and gas prices earlier this year. But that's not gonna work. A red wave is not going to continue to happen or to build into November just talking about inflation, just talking about gas prices. It can get wonky, it can get boring. And then again, if you're seeing gas prices coming down and you're in the middle and you're not paying attention to politics every day, you're like, not so sure. Not so sure. So with what the GOP did was, going back to Mayra Flores's race, all right, what worked there will work everywhere else. But no, the mood has changed, except for the borders. Republicans aren't even talking about the borders, for God's sakes. The heroin, not the heroin, the what is it? The fentanyl crisis that's occurring at our border. Republicans aren't talking about this stuff. Republicans aren't talking about issues that are impacting Americans, issues that are making Americans mad. And Republicans are playing right into the Democrats' game at this point, because if all we're talking about is the economy and things seem to get better, even though we all know that things are going to get horrible after the election. We know the student loan forgiveness, if this is allowed to go through, we all know we're all going to have to pay that back. The White House isn't even answering questions as to whether or not they're going to have to raise taxes to pay for this thing if it goes through, and it's going to go through. Let's be honest. This is what Biden needs in order to get people out to vote. So if if all we're talking about is the economy and things seem to get better for people, particularly those that are somewhere in between that we need to win elections, we're simply not going to do as good. So some of the same issues that drove up the anti-democrat sentiment in May and June, they're just not working anymore, and they're not going to work. He says here, like it or not, Biden's strategy for reducing gas prices is working. The national average price of a gallon of gasoline has dropped for 70 consecutive days, and the second longest such streak since 2005. Let me respond to this, because I've been seeing a meme online of Democrats have been constantly posting this about how the prices of gasoline has been dropping for 70 days. I think I saw that one meme yesterday. They do it every day now. Because I saw one a day or two before. So I'm assuming that they do this daily now to remind people, hey, we are getting stuff done. Gas prices that affect every aspect of our economy. Those prices are dropping. Right. And again, if all we're doing is talking about the economy, we're in trouble. And I have to admit, this is another thing that happens is they put you on the defense. They put Republicans and conservatives on the defense. So I sat there and I ranted. One of these memes popped up on Facebook, and so I needed to comment. I was upset, so I needed to comment. And I'm like, hey, gas is still up 65% higher than it was when Trump stepped out of office. The day that Trump left office, it was the national average was like $2.39 per gallon. Gas is still high, but when you see that it's going down, and now I'm in a position where notice what happened, and I have to check myself. We all have to check ourselves. I'm on the defense now. I'm not on the offense. I'm not blasting them anymore. I'm defending ground. Whoa. Wait a minute. But gas was still cheaper. Oh, but they're saying, but gas is getting cheaper. So potentially it could go as cheap as Donald Trump had it. You know what I mean? So we have to really, really get on top of our game when it comes to messaging in the GOP. And sadly, I got to tell you, I'm afraid that Mitch McConnell just threw a whole bunch of water on the Senate races simply because he's talking about how basically how these candidates aren't the greatest candidates in the Senate. Well, we don't need Mitch to denigrate our candidates. We need Mitch to lead in the Senate. Whatever animosity that he has towards Donald Trump, in order to save the country, he needs to put that animosity aside and get these people over the finish line. Now, we shouldn't necessarily count on Mitch regardless, but that's his job, right? But we should also make sure that we're going out and doing everything that we can to get these candidates elected. Donating, if you're not from Wisconsin, I'm not from Wisconsin, but I'll donate to Ron Johnson. I think I donated to Rubio already. If not, I'll double check. I'll make sure that I will. But anything that you can do to contribute and help these candidates out in the Senate, Blake Masters in Arizona, Dr. Oz. I know Dr. Oz wasn't the best candidate. I thought the two other candidates, I'm just being frank, were a better pick than Dr. Oz. But Dr. Oz is out there in Pittsburgh. He's doing, in Philadelphia. He's doing the work, shaking hands, kissing babies, talking to people, stuff that Fetterman isn't doing. Even I can't remember if it was WAPO. Some liberal outlet is admitting that Fetterman isn't necessarily doing the work, and I'm paraphrasing, that he needs to be doing. And there's some issues there. Obviously, with his stroke, you can see the man stumbling on the campaign trail. But these issues are fading. In July, the national average was $4.38 per gallon. In August, it dropped to $3.89, and it continues to go down. At this rate, listen to this. If a 49-cent drop over the course of 1 month is to be roughly the average for the next 2.5 months, the columnist says, the national average will drop by another $1.20. There's the GOP talking point. And then people will start believing Biden is capable, the Democrat Party is capable of making life better. And they'll forget all of the things that they've done to us in the past, including the lockdowns, where they made our lives a living hell, because people exist in the here and now. Americans, sadly, I think because we're so blessed and privileged, we have short-term memory. We have very short-term memory when it comes to politics. Let me read this to you. The GOP have to hope things will go bad or stay bad in order to win. And that's no place that you want to be. He says here, the GOP continue to harp on gas prices will appear out of touch, desperate, clinging to a not so distant past where things were slightly worse than they are in the present. In other words, the backbone of this entire electoral strategy involves the Republican Party hoping that things will get bad or that they will stay bad, and voters will take notice of that. They can smell the desperation. Listen to this polling. He talks about Biden is already being rewarded for this noticeable shift in inflation for consumers. Rasmussen reports, one of the most conservative pollsters in the country, recorded a stunning 11-point increase in Biden's approval rating in just 1 month. In just 1 month. So in July, he was at a historic low of 36%. That's abysmal. There's no way you're going to win an election with that. In August, he rose to 47%. That's the highest rating he's seen since September of 2021. Now, if I recall correctly, I think his polls are starting to shift downward again, but we can't ignore the fact that it rose. And Democrats know what to do to win elections. They're not like Republicans. Republicans that are the Republican establishment right now, in my opinion, seem to be working harder to help destroy Donald Trump and make sure that he doesn't run again than they are to work against the Democrat Party, who are obviously trying to destroy this country. It's crazy to me, but this is where we're at. He says here, other pollsters have reflected a similar increase in what can only be described as a clear pattern that Biden is bouncing back. Now we'll have to see how the polls look next month, but right now that's the truth. The economic talking points are getting boring fast. In this new era of culture war-driven politics, he says, where personalities supersede policies and heart-wrenching social issues are far more captivating than the policy wonk whiteboard presentations often seen in D.C., think tanks, or on Fox News, he says, nitpicking over fiscal policies or making a crusade out of temporary economic woes are strategies that are doomed to fail. So why? Honestly, it's easy to frame economics in a subjective light just because, like I said, Democrats can lie. Hey, things are getting better. And you're like, if you don't understand basic economics, if you don't understand, oh my God, we're spending money like crazy. Our dollar is going to be completely worthless. We're not going to win. We're not going to win. Here's a mistake. The mistake in New York, relying on the RNC. This is what he says. He says it was the economics-focused GOP that pushed so heavily for Molinaro in New York. Just look how far Molinaro got with the support of the RNC. Again, it was the economy, stupid, there, and it didn't work. Instead of riling people up, see, the uniting factors, the uniting issues are what we saw in Virginia, right? This is why Glenn Youngkin had so much success. This is why in Florida we've seen so much success. We've seen Trump do it. We've seen DeSantis do it. We've seen Glenn Youngkin do it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about these issues. CRT being one of these issues. The trans issue. Inside of schools, the hypersexualization, the oversexualization of our children. This is something everyone can glom onto, regardless of your party. Parents want to make sure that their children go to school and they learn to read, write, and get read, write, arithmetic, do math, or what have you. They don't want their children going to school if they're white and being told that they're an oppressor, right? Or they don't want their kids going to school where blacks are treated like queens and kings by the teachers and others are not because of their skin color. They don't want that crap. They don't want their kids being told, at a young age, Johnny can be Sally and vice versa. They don't want that. And that's unifying. That's unifying Democrats and Republicans against the federal government. And these are the issues we should be focused on. We just live in a different era. We are fighting against left-wing. We are fighting against communists. All right. That's who we're fighting against. And right now it appears as though we're losing the war. Look at what happened in Florida. This is good news, right? So even in Miami-Dade, deep blue county, Republicans managed to pull off wins and take over some school board seats. Now this is phenomenal. It's because people like DeSantis was going out. He was endorsing school board members. We didn't have as much success my way, unfortunately, but DeSantis was out promoting and school board members, and it worked. It worked in deep blue Miami, because we can unite against CRT regardless of political affiliation, right? We can unite against we can unite against this radical trans movement. By the way, the lesbian, gay, the LGBT community is starting to do the same. We can unite against these things. We can unite against COVID tyranny. But Republicans have to hammer these cultural issues. They have to, for example, the CDC are doing their damnedest right now, and so is the Democrat Party. Now, all of a sudden, when you consider the jab injuries that are occurring, when you talk about these things, the CDC and the Democrat Party are trying to run as far away as possible as they can from the jab. They're even starting to shift the blame back to Donald Trump. This is what they'll do, despite the fact that it was them that were, so adamant about these lockdowns and making sure that everyone gets jabbed and boosted and so on, et cetera. Oh, no. All of a sudden, it's Trump's vaccine. Rochelle Walensky coming out, well, the lockdowns that started much longer than much longer than you've been in office, because it's been like a 2-year problem. And I think you've been there for about 18 months. So the vast majority of the time, Rochelle Walensky. But this is what these people, this is what they do. The left just lies. And we're sitting here while they're lying, while they're shifting or moving the goalposts. Republicans are on the same 20-yard line, not moving an inch. It's insane, but this is exactly where we are. So we have to keep hammering and hammering and hammering these culture wars, and this is a winnable war. Unlike the gas prices that ebb and flow, this is a winnable war because it gets everyone charged up. But unfortunately, the Republican Party, once again, appears to be getting in their own way. Now, guys, I don't want you to be discouraged, but I got to tell you the truth. You listen to me. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's going to be up to us yet again, it looks like, to drag the Republican Party over the finish line. I want to share a story with you. Hat tip Daily Wire for this one. This is what Republicans should be talking about. Senator Ted Cruz is actually up on this particular issue. Meanwhile, just a quick reminder, join me on Getter, join me on Truth Social, The Carl Jackson Show on Getter and Truth Social. Also, subscribe to the podcast everywhere podcasts are found: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Guys, please subscribe at YouTube and Rumble. We are seeing the numbers in our audio. We'd really like to see some of you check out our videos, please, on YouTube and Rumble. But this story about D.C. Mayor Bowser saying that unvaccinated students are banned from in-person learning ahead of the school year. And she says there's no alternative. Hat tip to the Daily Wire. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, said on yesterday, that students 12 and older must show proof of the jab against COVID within the first 20 days of the new school year to continue learning in person at public and private schools. Now, this is astonishing given the fact that the CDC is backing away from absolutely every mandate, every recommendation that they had been putting out there. They're completely backing away. Again, trying to shift the blame to Trump. And I suspect the reason why is being these Pfizer documents that continue to roll out. They were trying to hide them for 75 years, but these Pfizer documents that continue to report on these vaccine injuries or these jab injuries. So when the publication asked Bowser what the plan was, speaking of the Daily Signal reported that Bowser admitted during a press conference that an alternative plan for students who cannot attend class had not been provided. When they asked Bowser, the Daily Signal, that's the Heritage Foundation's website, Daily Wire is reporting about it. What the plan was for the unvaccinated students before school begins on Monday, Bowser responded in this way. She said, and I quote, "They can go to school on Monday, but they need to get their vaccinations and their families will be alerted as to the dates," close quote. So you don't want them to come to school for in-person learning if they haven't had the job, but they can supposedly go into school for at least 2 weeks and infect people. See, this is all about power. This isn't about people. And this is so frustrating. She says, "We're not offering remote learning for children and families will need to comply with what is necessary to come to school." Comply. These people want power. These people are drunk with power. Never mind the fact that kids overwhelmingly suffer from depression, anxiety, suicide. Now we're learning that type 2 diabetes, and I don't have the stat right in front of me, skyrocketed amongst children during the lockdowns over the last couple of years. That it's insane. 3 years of learning lost. Vamoose, just gone. 3 years of learning lost. Some of these kids will never get those years back. And here's Muriel Bowser. She doesn't care. You're going to follow her because she's drunk with power. You're going to do what she says or else. You're not going to get your education. You know, that public education that your parents pay for. You're not going to get it. Unfreaking believable. Students and faculty must also show proof of a negative COVID test before the first day of class. Here's what the DC public schools had to say about it once she had mentioned, that students couldn't come back. They said they're excited to welcome our students, families, and staff back to school while excluding those who refuse to comply with the jab. They said the Coronavirus Immunization of School Students and Early Childhood Workers Amendment Act of 2021. Man, that is a long one. The Coronavirus Immunization of School Students and Early Childhood Workers Amendment Act of 2021, which a council passed in 2021, requires students age 12 and older to get the jab against COVID to attend schools. Now, they don't say the jab, they say the V word, but I'm saying jab. Now, earlier this month, Senate Democrats blocked Senator Ted Cruz when he filed a motion that would have protected Washington, D.C. Students from the city's jab mandate, which primarily blocks, guess who? Minority students. Or minority students from ages 12 to 15 years of age from attending school. Cruz said this in a statement that the effects would have a further detrimental impact on the students. And I quote here, quote, "In D.C., the rate of vaccination for students 12 to 15 is 85%, but for African-American students, the rate drops to 60%. So that's a 25-point drop there. Here's what the D.C. Department of Health, Kelsey Felton, also confirmed to the Daily Wire that while approximately 85% of children aged 12 to 17 are vaccinated, again, the 60% of African American aged children or children aged 12 to 15 are known to have already received 2 doses of the COVID jab. So these kids have received 2 doses of the COVID jab. But she goes on to say the actual percentages are likely higher because not all vaccines administered outside the district are known to DC Health. The race-specific coverage number is particularly likely to be an underestimate because the COVID-19 vaccination records DC Health does receive from outside of the district often do not include both age and race. Here's what a teacher had to say. Teacher Paige Velez Gilbert, she's a teacher for the public schools there. She supports the mandate while acknowledging that it would affect her students in different ways. When I hear a hard and fast rule like no vaccines, no schools, I think it favors families who are able to drop everything and get to the doctor and puts families with less resources or flexibility in a more precarious situation. This is absolutely true. Here's what Joe Biden had to say. He issued a statement on this as well ahead of the upcoming school year. And he said, and I quote, "Every American aged 6 months and over is eligible to get vaccinated." Oh, my God. "And everyone 5 and over is eligible for a booster shot after completing their primary series He said, getting vaccinated and staying up to date with COVID-19 vaccinations are the most important ways that we can minimize the most serious impacts that COVID-19 can have on our children, their teachers, and their school communities. Apparently, no one has put what's happening with the CDC or what the CDC is saying now in his teleprompter. But guys, these are the issues that we should be talking about. This lady, Muriel Bowser, is a disgrace. This is going to, DC, the crime level is insane in Washington, D.C. And many black youths are criminals in Washington, D.C. You're going to allow more kids to roam the streets. You're going to put more black kids behind. And you talk about white people being racist? Maybe you're the racist, Muriel Bowser. Maybe you're the one, you're so drunk with freaking power that you don't even acknowledge the damage that you're doing to the children in Washington, D.C., let alone the black community. You're a despicable human being. You know this information. You have the information. You're so drunk on freaking power that you're willing to see the education of black children come to a screeching halt. Even if it means there's more depression, anxiety, suicide, violence. Are there them participating in violence or becoming the victims of violence? This is what Republicans should be talking about. Republicans should be saying Muriel Bowser is forcing kids to stay out of school despite using old information. We're gonna fight like hell to make sure our kids get back in school and get the quality education they deserve since their parents pay the freaking taxes. Where are Republicans on this stuff? God almighty, just pisses me off to no end. All right, Daily Wire, LGB. I just want to mention this real quick, and I'll get into this more deeply on the Officer Tatum show tonight. Join me there. Daily Wire hat tip: LGB dropped the T trends on Twitter as many in gay community rejects transgender ideology. Blah 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 blah. I botched that. Let me read that again. This is from the Daily Wire. It was just hard to say, Gabe. It was weird. LGB dropped the T. All right, LGB dropped the T trends on Twitter as many in the gay community reject transgender ideology. So some gay activists are saying pump the brakes on the transgender ideology. The column says earlier this month, the hashtag LGB dropped the T trended on Twitter. Users who said they identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual criticized progressive gender ideology and attempted to distance themselves from transgender activists. Those tweeting under the hashtag expressed their frustration that in their view, the transgender movement has co-opted the gay rights movement and turned it into something unrecognizable. Here's what one person said, a guy by the name of Rick Westhorpe, who describes himself as a same-sex attracted in his Twitter bio. He says, the T hitched a ride a few years back, invited itself for dinner, and is trying to make out that it always lived here. It didn't, he says. Now, some of that is a line. A bit of that is from, oh my God, what's my favorite comedian? Oh, God. Gabe, who's the comedian? The most famous black comedian right now. Absolutely love. My God, I can't believe he was attacked on stage recently. Dave Chappelle. My God, I cannot believe that I forgot Dave Chappelle. So anyway, but this is true. Honestly, this is something that I've talked about for quite some time. The fact that the LGBT community, I say the lesbian and gay community, would allow all these other letters to come on board, all it did, in my opinion, was dilute their movement. So you're saying that, hey, you're attracted to the same sex, so you're lesbian and gay. Okay. In order for that to be true, right? Objective truth. Okay, lesbian, hey, same-sex attraction, woman on woman. Gay, same-sex attraction, man on man. Trans, I'm not sure exactly who I am, what I am. I may be a dude dressing like a woman, but I'm attracted to women still. Like, I don't understand how you would mix objective truth with someone who's clearly has gender dysphoria. I don't understand it. And I always thought this was a huge mistake of the LG, I say the lesbian and gay, because I think lesbian, gay, okay, same-sex attraction, bisexual, I think you're a little, you're confused. I think you'll end up being attracted to the opposite sex. Everything else is just an effort. It's just communism. It's an effort to get more people angry, to create more blocks, so the left has another group to victimize that'll come to vote for them when they piss them off. That's it. Or when they call Republicans xenophobes and all this kind of stuff. That's all it is. But this is very interesting. See, this shows me that there are some issues that are ripe for the picking from the Republican Party, and we don't hear crap from them. Guys, it's going to be up to us. There are a lot of great organizations here locally in Orlando doing great work. They are talking about CRT. They are talking about the trans movement, and praise God for them. But we've got to make sure that we keep our foot on the gas, and we got to make sure that we call our elected officials and just be sure that they talk about this stuff. And when it comes to the Senate, it doesn't appear to me that Mitch McConnell is going to make a switch and start motivating the base to try to vote for these senators and get them in office. And Herschel Walker in Georgia is another one over the finish line. We're going to have to do that. Whatever you can chip in to help save America, do so. If you can scrape up $50, $100, I don't know, $500. I don't know what the max are on these on these campaigns, but some of you can afford to do that. Make sure these people are funded. I'm going to do the same. I can't afford tons, but I can afford something. And guess what? It's worth it. It's worth the sacrifice to save this country. This is the greatest country that God has ever given man. And we have a duty. We have an obligation, I believe, both spiritually and morally, to save it. We are the beacon on the hill. People do want to be like us. And you know what? They should want to be like us. America is a great nation. It's an exceptional nation where the individual matters, where the individual is more important than the government. And it should stay that way. Guys, until next time, listen, don't go where you're doing good. Please, again, subscribe to the podcast. Everywhere my podcast is found. You can find it on Apple, Google. It's on Spotify. Please subscribe to our Rumble channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Rate and review it. Follow me on social media. I really love to see you on Getter and on True Social. But I'm also on the old school stuff. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Where else? Twitter. You can find me there, The Carl Jackson Show. And please take advantage of the special deals at mypillow.com using that promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, the promo code Carl. Again, the Perkel sheets have a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. That'll be, you can go shop that website. You can call 800-858-0263. Use that promo code Carl. Shop, browse around at the website. Get your family members an early Christmas present. Beat the rush, if you will, all right? And guys, I really do appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate the support. And let's go win these elections, man. Let's turn this stuff around. Let's make sure that there is a red wave with good candidates. We're going to have to drag some of these people over the finish line. We have no choice. We got to do it. We got to win this election. Until next time, guys, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.